There's a strange phrase that you'll hear a lot in entrepreneurial learning, and it is the phrase, get comfortable with being uncomfortable. And it's a kind of an oxymoron, isn't it? But when you get it, it's kind of really, really true. And it's the way that we need to work if we want to be successful as entrepreneurs, because there are always going to be things that are going to make us uncomfortable that we need to do in order to achieve success. And I can think of this cropping up so many times in my entrepreneurial career. But the first time that it really, really hit home with me was way back. I've been running my business for a little while, and I always avoided being the salesperson in the business. So I employed salespeople, and it never really worked out that well. But I avoided being the salesperson because it made me feel uncomfortable, because I used to, on occasion, suffer from panic attacks when I was doing either public speaking or presenting. Now, I was running a digital marketing agency way back in the early 2000s, and back then nearly all of the ways that you did your presentations was face to face, and sometimes it might be a board of directors, and sometimes it might be a bigger room of people, but it could be pretty intimidating. And it didn't used to happen to me every time. It used to be quite a sort of a random thing, or so it appeared to be in my mind. But I would suffer from dry mouth, nervousness, shaking, almost an out-of-body experience sometimes when I was doing presentations, and particularly if I was speaking to a larger group. And I had no real logical explanation for it. And so as a result of that, I used to actively avoid putting myself in that uncomfortable situation in case this mortal fear overcame me. And so for years, that's why I employed salespeople. But I kind of reached a bit of a plateau with my business, and I came across a selling system called the Sandler sales system that I actually bought into. And it started teaching me not only how to be a salesperson, and you'll know that my true belief is if you are in business, you are in sales. I didn't know that at the time, but it taught me how to be a salesperson, but it also taught me so many other entrepreneurial techniques that have stayed with me for the rest of my life. And that phrase about getting comfortable, being uncomfortable, that's when I was first introduced to it. And because it was such a poignant thing for me, and because selling meant that it put me in a very uncomfortable situation for me personally, i.e. doing presentations, actually putting myself in front of people where I knew I could be super nervous, it really made me face that fear straight on. And so the first thing I did was I went to a talk. Now, there was a guy called Peter Roper, still a guy, I met him recently, and he's actually quite local around here. And at the time, he was the chairman of the Public Speaking Association, and he gave a talk all about public speaking and how to present, because he'd written a book that was called "And Death Came Third." Great book. And what the book is about is when there was a survey done back in America a few years ago as to what was the thing that you were most scared of. Number one was public speaking. Number two was spiders. And number three was death. And so the book was called "And Death Came Third." So I knew I wasn't on my own with this mortal fear. It's a fear that is super common. It's the most common fear. But it can be debilitating when you want to be a successful business owner, when you want to make sales, when you want to grow your business. So I went and saw Peter Roper, and he taught me some great techniques, and it really helped me start the journey. The second thing I did was I went on a public speaking course with a guy called Mike Pagan, another local guy around here. I went on his course because he was actually on the Sandler selling course with me. And so I went on one of his public speaking courses, and I'll never forget it because we arrived at the day, there were a few of us on the course, we arrived at the day in Birmingham, at a nice sort of venue in Birmingham. And the first thing he said to the group was, "Thanks for coming along. It's the beginning of the day. What it is, I've organised for some of your friends and family to join us in the room at the back. And what I want you to do is give a 5-minute talk to the people, just to break the ice, just to see just how bad you are right now at public speaking. And you've got 10 minutes to write it. Off you go. And of course, for somebody like me, that filled me with dread. That was like the idea of standing in front of a bunch of strangers and some people that I knew was an absolute nightmare. But we had to do it, so we wrote and we had to pick a topic and we had to write the speech. And then Mike came back in and he said, right, let's have a look. Everybody ready? Are you ready? Right. Just so you know, I did tell a bit of a lie about the people being in the other room. But what I did want to do is find out what you've got, how you've worked under pressure, how it made you feel. And now I want you to just deliver that speech to the people in the room. What an icebreaker that was, I'll tell you. Absolutely brilliant. Kudos to Mike. But that was the start of that journey. I think from memory, it was a 2-day course. We're going back a few years now. But that was the thing that really got me going and into realizing that, you know, presenting could be taught. It put me outside of my comfort zone. It started to make me realize that getting outside my comfort zone is something I needed to do on a regular basis. And as a result of that, when I started getting results, because my presentation skills improved, because I was giving talks to bigger rooms and starting to really get confident, it really helped me realize what a big deal that phrase is, getting comfortable with being uncomfortable. I would say, though, that the thing that absolutely nailed my fear of public speaking was back when I had a company that was a supercar experience company some years ago. And my friends, two of my friends and myself set up this supercar experience business because we're all petrol heads. They were in the industry already. And so we set up that business. We all put in a supercar ourselves, and then we rented some other cars. And we set up what became the second biggest supercar experience business in the UK and South Africa. It was a great business. However, I digress. What we did in that business was we managed to get 250 roughly people a weekend to come to our racetrack, which was up in Scotland, and we would put them in the cars or the cars of their choice. So it might be Lamborghinis, Ferraris, Aston Martins, etc. And there were no spare pedals. There would be a driving instructor on the one side. They get full control of the car and they drive around a racetrack. So quite a really cool thing to do. We used to really make people's dreams come true with that business. But of course, we need to make sure they know what they're doing. And so every time that we had a batch of people go and wait in the queues to go and join the cars, we had to do a safety briefing. And the safety briefing is a really important part of the business. It took about 20 minutes. And my business partner, Phil, always used to do the safety briefing, and he was really good at it. And one weekend, and I used to fly up to Scotland at the weekend. I used to help with the cars and do you know, a bit of the sort of meet and greet and the sales and that kind of thing. But one weekend we had a new client. Now, a client for us was somebody that was looking to give us more customers, and it was a big deal. And it was the start of the day on the Saturday morning, and Phil said to me, he said, Grant, can you do the first safety briefing? We've got this lady that's going to be in the meeting, so I'd rather you did it because, you know, we need to make a good impression. We know you're good at this sort of thing. Oh my God, straight away it triggered me. It was like the worst thing I could imagine. The pressure I was under. I'd never done a safety briefing before. I'd heard it lots of times, but I'd never done it before. It was a really important one because we had somebody really important to impress. And I've got to be honest, I felt like running off. I really considered it. I was shaking like a leaf. I was really nervous. All of those symptoms that I thought I'd put behind me kicked in that moment. But I didn't have a choice. I had to go and do it. So there was a trap set for me. This is a really good principle about how you get outside your comfort zone, because you set yourself a trap. You make it so you can't get out of it. And I put myself in front of that room, and I've got to be honest, I didn't do a great job. But Phil thought it was great. The customer thought it was great. And from that moment forward, I'd got the job. And so at the weekend, I used to do a presentation to 20 strangers for 20 minutes, have a 10-minute gap, and then do another batch. And I would be doing that 6-7 times a day over and over again. And after I'd done that for a few weeks, I could honestly say I could stand in front of any audience, doesn't matter how big, and talk quite comfortably with hardly any fear whatsoever, as long as it's about something that I'm confident in and I know what I'm talking about. Because repetition, as my old mentor said to me, builds reputation. And repeat, repeat, repeat is what ingrains into your brain. It puts whatever it is you're presenting into your unconscious mind, and it makes it so much easier to do. So put yourself outside your comfort zone. If there's something you don't like doing, you know it's good for your business, set yourself a trap. Make it so that it's something you can't get out of it. And that usually means some form of accountability to somebody else, or an appointment, or some way of doing something you can't get out of. You make yourself accountable to get that thing done, and then you repeat, you repeat, you repeat. I remember reading the book in Total Recall, that's the Arnold Schwarzenegger book. He talks about all the time about the metaphor of it's all about the reps. To be successful in life, you've got to do the reps over and over again. Now, he talks about when he gave a talk to, I think it was the World Conference on Climate Change, and he had to give a 2-hour talk, and he'd rehearsed that talk 50 times, so that when he stood in front of all those people, he didn't need any notes, he didn't need any bullet points, because he'd rehearsed it 50 times. The reps had stuck it into his brain and he knew it off by heart. Now that was an uncomfortable thing to have to do, but because he knew it off by heart, he could be as relaxed and comfortable as he needed to be to get his message across and get the results that he needed. Arnold Schwarzenegger is one of the most successful people on the planet, and I think we can all agree that he's been successful as a bodybuilder, a film star, a politician, and now he's back into movies, and he's an influencer, and he's a fitness person. He's an absolute legend. Total Recall is the book, well worth watching. But again, putting yourself outside of your comfort zone, making yourself get comfortable with being uncomfortable, is one of the true secrets of success. And I recommend that you make a serious effort to put yourself in your comfort zone, as long as it's the thing that you know is going to get you successful. But I do know a lot of coaches that say it doesn't matter what the comfort zone is, you've got to do it every day, and you've got to make sure that you repeat it, repeat, repeat, repeat. One of the key success principles. Good luck with it. Let me know how you get on. If you want more content like this, please like, subscribe, share. Let me know what you think. Let me know about how you put yourself outside your comfort zone. And let me know if there's any other topics on the entrepreneurial journey that you'd like me to share. Thanks for listening, and thanks for watching.